Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on Mr. Mel Skahan. Live episode every Friday at 6:45 Eastern Standard Time. A regular episode released every Tuesday at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can also go find me on Rumble. You can find me on Spotify, wherever you download your MP3 apps. All of my social media is down in the bottom. If you want to support the show today, super chats are open. Not an obligation, just if you want to help out, you can do that as well. But if you really want to help out, just go ahead and like the video on the way out today or whenever you're seeing the video. So with all that out of the way, let's welcome our guest to the show today, Mr. Mel Skahan. At a stage. There we go.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. And just keeping busy as usual. You know, summer's here, so the high altitude snow melt off is I can get into the high country again on my camping trips.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, down here we just started. We went from the dry season. Now we're beginning the wet season. I'm down here on the you don't know this shore, but I'm down here on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, and so it was hot and 110 for about a month, and now we're about 95 with 100% humidity. So yeah, we have different worlds.
Yeah, different worlds. Yeah, you could have
changes in the climate.
you went from a coat to a sweater.
Yeah, I haven't seen winter in about 3 years, man. It's really weird. I haven't experienced it in quite a while after moving from Germany to here. So, thanks very much for accepting my invitation for coming on the show today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you and seeing the perspective of somebody who knows it from the way, because everyone's different, but I would love to hear your point of view, sir. Please do me a favor. Introduce yourself to me and the audience as well, and tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe where we can find you if you're promoting something.
Okay. Well, my name's Mel Skahan, and I'm an enrolled member of the Yakama Nation located in central Washington. And the reservation is about 1.2 million acres, and we have 3/4 of that is timbered. And I started a forestry career back in 1988, if I remember right. It's been a long while. And then I started with the Forest Service up here in central Washington. And then decided to take my knowledge and everything back to my home back on the Yakama Reservation, and then spent 27 years with them working the forestry program. And that's where my knowledge of our subject that we're going to be talking about comes from, all the encounters that I've had with them, not just alone working, but working with others that have walked alongside me during, I'd say, a great deal of the experiences that I've had.
Wow, and so being a forester, I had a gentleman on yesterday who did the same thing. What is his name? His name is Tom Contrell.
Oh yeah, I know Tom.
Yeah, I was speaking to him yesterday. He basically did the same thing. He worked for the Forestry Service, and he would have to cross creeks, and to do that, you have to have special regulations and stuff. And he said, "Oh yeah, then that's when it all kind of started for me too." So it's very interesting that two gentlemen in a row have that same kind of experience. So how did this all start for you? I mean, where did it begin? Did you have a fascination before this, or did it just kind of come to you?
Growing up as a child, we have certain unwritten laws, unwritten rules that we have to follow. And one of them happened to be involving Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the forest people. And that, while we're out, if they do come around, just don't be around them. Don't look them in the eyes. And then at night, we had even stricter rules where if we were camping or visiting folks where events may have happened with them, then we weren't allowed to, open the window, because we always closed the blinds, and wouldn't whistle at night, wouldn't take a negative energy of crying or doing anything else like that at night. There's just so many things that we had to follow in order not to attract them. But they didn't say anything about, out working, what not to do. It just happens. They're there, and they found me a lot. I didn't go looking for them.
Well, that's interesting. It also seems I don't know, you can correct me. I'm sure you know a lot more about it than I do. Most certainly do. Um, like they seem, from what I've understood, they want to show themselves to the people that they want to, but if they don't want to, they can also just say, no, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah, you have to have a certain relationship. Well, you have to have that personality that they want to get to know.
Hmm.
They don't present themselves to everybody or continually present themselves to everybody, not just a single one, but multiples of them. And you can go to another area, let's say 60 miles within the state of Washington, or 100 miles into the state of Oregon, and you make the contact by putting your name out there. You tell them who you are. You just basically introduce yourself like you and I did at the beginning of the show. And then
Right.
that relationship develops from there. And then you let them know who you are, why you're there. And then if you have family members or friends, then you introduce those people with you and just let them know that we're just here to have a good camp outing, and if you want to come around, you're more than welcome.
Oh wow! So you make it like an environment, like an inviting atmosphere. You kind of, it's probably something you have to speak to yourself within, and have some certain type of connection with the forest, because I know certainly feel very at peace in the forest, and then you just kind of like just it just kind of happens. You're saying for some people.
Yes, and then like they don't choose everybody. So and I've known a lot of people interviewing them during their encounters. Some of them have a negative encounter of a lot of roaring, yelling, screaming, throwing rocks, throwing different items from the forest floor, from the trees, and trying to get them to get out of there. And
Okay.
so it just depends on what you're doing out there that will help that relationship that you want to build with them. And respect is the biggest thing.
Right. Okay. So I mean, so how did it start? Like, so you're out there doing your surveys or whatever it is that you're doing, and how did it begin?
It all started when, you know, with my Forest Service days, those folks really didn't talk anything about Bigfoot because it was too vast of a environment to be in. And if you did speak of it, then it was like, no, they changed the subject. No, you didn't see
Okay.
anything. No, 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 no. Yeah, but during my Forest Service days, it started when I was a wildland firefighter down, and we were on an assignment in Oregon, and we had been set out to this portion of the fire, which had been the fireland had already been created, and we were trying to create that barrier to. So we were going in about 30 to 40 feet, putting out all the hot spots so that it would not reignite. And there was this deep little draw that we worked in because we were on a night shift, and this draw was part of our division that we were working. So my squad was placed out on one side, and then you had to go down into the draw and then walk to the other side to
Okay.
catch up with the rest of them. So the first night, it was no problem going in and out of this draw, but it was dark. Usually, I walked alone, catching up with the rest of the crew. And then the second night, it felt kind of eerie, but I didn't know why. But I had no problem the first night. Third night was okay, wasn't too bad. But then on the fourth day that we were there, they took us out, and they replaced us with, of all people, a group firefighters from my reservation, the Yakama Nation, and so they put us on uh, day duty, and the first night that the Yakama Nation crew went down in there, they started fanning out just like we did while we were there nights before, and they didn't even get fully lined out, and then one of them saw a Bigfoot Sasquatch forest person as he was walking along the fire line, put his headlamp to the outer portion of the fire, and he was standing right there, and yelled Bigfoot, and then started running back to the bus or the drop point where they started from. And
Wow.
then one by one, like dominoes, they all just started running back to the bus. And when the next morning or the next day, they took a team back in there, and the crew supervisor for that bunch had a video camera, and then they walked back in there, and then they found the foot tracks that where he saw it, and then it went into the fire, milled around into the fire, and then walked back out and then left. And
Wow.
so the crew did not want to go back in there, and I think that day, that next day, they were sent home. But if I had one more night in there, I would have had my first sighting way back when. And
When was this about? What time was this?
this was about 1988, 1989. When this
Okay.
happened.
Okay. All right. So I was 8 years old. All right. Yeah, I've never had anything like that. I grew up in like a metropolitan area. I mean, if you go into Western Maryland and Garrett County out that way in the Appalachian, I'm sure there's something out there. It just never occurred. And then when I did go hunting, it was in like, little pockets of woods in between, developments and things like that. But when you get out west where you live, sir, it's just such an open area, and there's so many places for these, for them to thrive and to live and things like that. So it's just, and then, you probably have heard about them before that, I'm sure, probably within,
Yes.
within your how would you say, tribe? I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yes.
Okay. Within your tribe, there's, a lot of stories passed down through the generations, and certain, because that's pretty much in every one of them, even here in Mexico, my girlfriend's Mayan, so she's Native American as well. And, there's certain things that gets carried along. And then when you finally start confronting this, it's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And then, especially when you're alone, when you're having these experiences, because, eventually you learn that when you're in a group setting, 2 or 3 more, then, of course, you're going to feel a lot better because you have other people with you. And, but when you're alone and, you get that vibration or you get that sense, and then the hair starts standing up on your arms, and then you're looking around. And but when you're with a group, then you're like, hey, does anybody else feel that? You can confirm that the birds just went quiet, the squirrels went quiet. What's going on here?
Wow. Could you describe what that feeling is like? Is it just like I would imagine for someone who's never been out in the woods, maybe you're in a club or a bar and you just feel this undertone of like, something's off here and I got to get out of here. Or is it like much more visceral?
It just depends on the individual and the contact that it wants to make with you. If it doesn't want you in there, there's a thing that they can do. It's called infrasounding. And that is a vibration that they send out to you that could be negative or could be positive. And if they don't want you in there, that infrasounding will be light, and you'll get the tingling feeling. You'll get a little bit of nauseousness with it. And then when you get closer or don't heed that warning, then that level of infrasound increases to the point where, and this has happened to me many times, where everything in you just doesn't feel right. You feel like nauseous. Your eyes hurt, your head hurts, your body starts to ache. And if somebody else is with you and they come up to you and say, hey, what's going on here? Says all of a sudden, I don't feel good. And then I let him know. I says, well, there's somebody here that doesn't want us here. We'll explain to them, because this is our job, that we were here to do a job. And then when we're done, we're walking out and you can have your place back.
Wow. This is another Native American woman. She is, I believe, in Oregon as well. And she's went out in the woods for, I think it was the last of her kind. It's supposed to be a year where they have like a growing up type thing, you know, a ceremonial thing. And she made it 7 months, and I've been trying to get her on, but we'll figure it out too. So she always comes in and tags along. I love to hear, what does your tribe, what did they say about the forest people, you know, amongst the people that you live with? What do they say?
It just depends on the family units, the longhouses, the different areas of the reservation. Some say, you know, they're bad luck. Don't bother them. So, and a lot of people also say that, you know, leave them alone. Excuse me. Leave them alone. And, you know, if you do sense or come across one, then, you know, you just depart. You don't go chasing them. You don't go hunting them. You don't try to gather anything from them. Hairs, castings, pictures. I was always told from the very beginning, you'll never get a picture of one. And that's been true to this day.
Wow.
And, but I have had friends that taken me places where they have casted the tracks, and I've been around them to follow the tracks. But, you know, the cat played with it. You know, they didn't make it really thick. It was a real thin casting, and so when they go to pull it out of the ground, it breaks apart because they didn't let it set long enough, or it was too thin on the bouncy ride out that it shattered. So the truth of saying to an enrolled member of any tribe is like, you'll never collect any evidence, or they don't want you to have that evidence unless they present it to you. Then, you know, it will, you know, break, or it'll disappear, or, you know, something along that lines.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard it quite like that. And normally when I hear it, it's like there either is or there isn't, or we didn't let it set long enough, or you can't see it. Yeah, I imagine there's some truth to that. Could you possibly take us to the first time you had your personal first encounter with one of the forest people?
Okay. Yeah. I was working alone. I just started with a different position within the tribe, and I was a timber cruiser, and I was sent out to an area, and this was right around November, so it just started to snow in that higher elevation, and I was sent into this spot where the timber was thick. It was a lodgepole pine stand, so it was very closed in, and it was in a creek. So within the forestry practices, we don't, there's buffers put in for creeks depending on the flow. And so I was working this area, I was crossing it, and then I was paralleling this creek, getting further and further away until my plots, because sometimes we collect data within that riparian area, and sometimes we don't. And but on this journey, I had to collect the data in there, and so I had to put my plots in this lodgepole stand, and it was dark. And then I heard the first growl come at me, and it was
Wow.
And you know, you hear something like that being in the woods. You know, you think of all your main predators, bears,
Right.
cougars. You go through all that, and I was like, okay, well, I've got a bear, you know, off to my right, and so I worked my plot, and then picked up and started going to the next one. And when I arrived at the next one, it did it again, but this time that growl had a vibration to it, and it just went right through my body. And then I put my hands up, and I looked over to the right because I knew exactly where
it was coming from.
And so I looked, and I couldn't see anything. And then so I dropped to the ground and laid flat on my stomach to see underneath the drooping branches that were there, and I couldn't see anything because it was so dark. So I just, you know, never had this type of encounter with them. This was my first one. And so I went about, worked my plot, then I started going to the next one. And then the third one came out. And then exact same thing. And then again, the vibration went through me. And I put my hands up and I was like, I don't know who you are or what you are, but I'm out of here. And so I started walking, not straight back, because I knew he was over, or she or he was over on my right. So I took a long detour, about 3/4 of a mile, to get back to my truck. And I wasn't followed. I didn't get that sense of being followed as I was walking out, and I was taking it nice and slow. And the timber stand had changed once I got out of that drainage. I got up on the hillside, and it was more of a open ponderosa pine stand. And so I looped back to get to my truck, and then I saw a truck, and I was about 30 yards away when I heard this crash, boom. So a tree had been pushed on and cracked it, and then heard it crashing through the trees as it hit the ground after that. And then I put my hands up and I said, okay, I said, I'm out of here. I said, I'm gone. I said, I won't be back for a while. You can have your spot back. And I had gone back down to the office, and I told my coworkers that I work with in the same program. I told them what had happened, and I says, I need your guys' help to help me finish this. And both of them said, nope, no, you can finish that by yourself. We're
Wow.
okay.
Wow,
No
I thought
help.
I thought these were like the manly men, the smoke jumpers and stuff. Come on, guys, let's go.
No.
All right.
But
I'd have gone with you. Just you have to, give me at least a 2x4 with a nail in it or something, just so I feel that I might be safe.
Yeah. Well, I went back up about 3 days later, and
Okay.
I went out to finish the area, but nothing bothered me when I went back.
And this was and more or less, what year was this then?
This was right around 1995, 96.
All right. So this has been going on for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So how did this start working itself out? It's just more and more it started to happen, and they presented themselves to you. What has changed since that first incident?
And what has changed is that now realizing, talking to co-workers that we're having, I have a hunting and fishing buddy. We go up all the time hunting and everything, and then we go down along the Columbia River and do a lot of fishing down there, and we also work together. And I told him about it, and he told me, he says, oh yeah, he says, yeah, be careful, Bigfoot out there. And
Wow.
so he started sharing his encounters with me while working with the tribe as well, and then working with the Forest Service. He had followed like the same steps that I did, and so that's how we hit it off. And I think that's how we really became really good friends. And so anything that would happen, we would get told, and then we would immediately go out to the spots and try to find something, look for footprints, look for any type of evidence that would show us that they were there. And that, of course, I explained earlier is that that's something that our elders told us, that no, we're not supposed to be doing that, but we were doing it just to try to not present it to the world, but to ourselves, that the different size foot tracks and the different type of events that we were experiencing while we were there. And that's how this progressed, from being scared of them, but also now starting to wonder who they were and how they moved, how they lived, and where on the reservation that they lived, and how far they would go. And so when we started putting all this together over the years, then we started realizing that there's patterns to their movement. They just don't stay in one location. They'll go 40, 50, 60 miles out from the spot where we have located them. And they're moving with the foods. They're moving with the calendar. And they're, moving with family units as well, because we were finding adults with small kids, with little ones. And so just this continued progression of seeing all this was like, hey, they're just like us. They're out there, they're living, they're thriving, and they do it 24/7, 365.
Right.
And so people are always describing to us as how strong they are, how fast they are. And it was like, well, just, I mean, that's what they do. I mean, they have no tools. They don't have electricity. They're they're taught from a very young age to start learning how to live. And and that's the interactions that they start doing with um, everybody that goes out into the woods. It's like when you go to the park, you take your little ones to the park, you want them to play nice with everybody, and they learn how to do the merry-go-round. They learn how to do the swings. They learn how to interact with other kids. And that's the same thing with these folks, is that they're taught from that same age on how to interact and be comfortable around certain people.
Yeah, it makes you wonder when you say, like, like they grow up in this environment and we grow up in the environment of the city. It makes me wonder if there was a point in time in our history and our evolutionary biology from a long time ago, especially Native Americans and even Native Europeans farther back. You know what I mean? It just makes me wonder how much we lost due to this, whatever this silicone-based civilization we now find ourselves in.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a huge loss. I mean, that's why we go out to woods to try to connect. And
Yeah.
there are like certain families or certain individuals within our race that have those connections. That be able to see, talk, to our past loved ones, or and it's something that is inherited throughout who's ever family that was, the mom, the father, and then
Right.
the kids pick it up. Just like my family, we got it from my mother's side of the family. And so at a young age, you used to see the spirits, you used to interact with people. It was like, oh, you know there goes Tom, he's
Wow.
talking in the corner. What is he
Wow.
doing? He's
Like
outside
the
playing with
shaman, the
some.
medicine man. You had that too in your traditions, the shaman and
Well,
medicine man.
I wouldn't call that. It was just a special energy that we were able to pick up on,
Oh,
and
okay.
it had to be developed over time. And that's what your adults, your elders, the ones that do have that ability, they'll tell you. When your mom was your age, I taught her how to, and so it's developed
That's
through
so
as you grow.
that's so cool. There's a part of me that instinctively knows that, and you try to develop that through Eastern mysticism, like meditation and things like that. You're able to achieve some states of that, but I think we've lost so much through what we do. I think, like you're saying, I think we just took two different evolutionary paths. We're just like, no, we're staying in the forest and we're going to be the masters of our reality, and you guys go into your houses and make your ramen noodles or whatever. And
Right. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just so
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's you know, in our tradition and everything is that when we do come across them, I said, I explained that I was a fisherman and a hunter and a gatherer as well. And so if we're out gathering huckleberries, first foods, roots, wild carrots, wild celery, um, and if one comes around, or if we know one is there, then whatever we have collected, we leave it behind and then we
No
go
kidding.
someplace else, because
Wow.
that they're there for a reason. I mean, that's what they live off. And then so we don't want to take from them because that's their life. We can go someplace else, jump in a car and go to another site and do that all over again, where it could take them half a day, quarter of a day to get to another spot,
Right.
because we've like overpicked or overgrazed the area for them. And
Yeah,
so we
it's like
don't want to
a
do that.
yeah, it's like a coexistence of sorts. You're like, we know you're here, we're here. You don't really want to interact with us so much, but at the same time, we want to make sure that you guys we know that you were probably here before us,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're the masters of the domain, and we're here. Okay, here, take this.
yeah.
Um, what was it? Have you ever seen one before?
Yes, I have.
Could you
Yeah,
describe that situation? Walk us into it, and for the layman as myself, maybe give me a description of what they look like.
Okay. We I had a coworker with me, and he had experiences while working forestry with the tribe as well. So we were talking different stories while we were working together for about, I think we were together about a month when this happened, and so we go up, talk stories. I've been up here. We drive by locations, and he says, this spot right here, one chased me out, and or another time, one had screamed at me or threw stuff at me. So he had a lot of encounters. So we're going up to this spot to try to find an easier way over the hillside, and he's in the passenger seat, and I'm driving. And so this was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So bright day, sun was out, and as we're driving through this spot on this dirt road, he got quiet, and then he looked at me. He goes, "There was something back there." And I said, "Well, what was it?" And he goes, "I don't know." And so I stopped the vehicle, and I was backing it up, and I go, "Well, what did you see?" And he goes, I don't know." He was just stammering and everything, and he was so. I backed the truck up, and then I turned to my left to make sure I don't hit it. I was looking in the mirror, and then off to the right, he was looking, and then he goes, "There it goes." And then I immediately looked off to his direction, and there was one standing out in the open. This area had been logged with a right next to a ponderosa pine tree, and his arm was fully extended out, kind of like leaning on it.
Wow.
And then when he said, "There it goes," then that's when it dropped its right arm and then turned to its left, took a couple of steps, and then started to run uh, um, away from us. And
Okay.
so as it dropped its arm and started turning to its left, that's when I saw it. And so I saw this huge, we estimated him to be about 7.5 to 8 foot tall. And he was dark black in color and had a solid athletic build. I mean, you could see the huge muscles on this. And we figured, over time, I figured that after being in this, that, the younger males, the younger females are thinner, just like we are when we grew up. We were into sports and everything and wanted to be, you know, um, masters of whatever sporting event or after school goal that we were trying to do. And so
Yeah, right.
he was built, and then he was black in color, saw not a huge sagittal crest to the top of the head, but as he's moving away, I could see the shoulder movement as he had his arm straight down, and then he was swinging as he was running, and he moved so fast, and then as he was running away from us, then he turned to his right, and then started running that direction. So he changed his 90 degrees to the right, and then turned back to the left, and then he was out of sight.
Wow.
And I used to say disappear, but when I say disappear, then people are like, "Oh, he vanished." And it's like, no. So
No, yeah.
I had to. I said, "No, he got out of our sight." And then I remembered I had a camera in my vest, so I grabbed my vest, and then I went and I started out after it. I started following the foot tracks, which were basically just impressions in the ground because, like I stated earlier, this area was logged. And so there wasn't a lot of dirt in there other than forestry debris, branches, needles, tree needles, and all that. And so I could see the impressions in the ground, and I started following those. And then as a hunter, when you wound an animal, you want to follow it to make sure that you don't let it suffer. So I
Right.
started putting ribbons on the ground where I was finding the tracks, and then I located where he left the flat area that we were on, and then he went downhill, which was about 60 to 70%, and then I just let him go after that. And then I looked back, and I saw my coworker was getting out of the truck, and he started walking towards me, and he goes, "Why'd you stop?" I says, "Well, I'm not gonna go after him anymore. I mean, he's already over the hill.
Wow.
And so we sat there, talked about it for a while, and because they couldn't get a really good estimation on the foot track, because on the feet itself, because it was impressions in the forestry debris. So the height came from we estimated it from when I grabbed a stick and I put it up in the air, because he was the one that initially saw where it was standing next to the tree. And so that's how we came up to around 7.5 to 8 foot tall. And like I said, he was black in color, very muscular, and always kept his arms down by his side when he was running. He didn't run
Right. Which
like
is so
this.
different than what we do. Right.
Yeah. So he kept him down on his side, and he was moving, back and forth, and then looking at his large shoulders he was wide. And then, so I started putting more ribbons in the ground. I started retracing the steps that when he took off, and it started off as a shuffle to the left. Just because he was turning to the left, and then it was just a matter of inches when he was shuffling to his left, and then when he started on the full run this direction away from us, he started off at 4 feet, then it went to 5 feet, and then 7 feet, and then 9 feet, and
Wow.
12 feet. So he had a 12-foot stride on a full run.
Oh my Lord. That's so people get an understanding. A basketball court, if you lay not the court but the actual rim, if you lay that down, that is 10 feet. If I'm 6'4", if I reach up, I'm reaching about 7.5, 8 foot. So that's that plus another 4 feet. That's half of she. That's incredible. How does it make you feel to see something that by scientific standards isn't supposed to exist? What did that make you feel in that moment with the gentleman you were with?
Well, I knew immediately what I was looking at was something very, very rare. And I had been waiting for such a long time, because I've been following them for a while without actually seeing them. I would hear them. I would hear them moving around. I would hear the wood knocks. I would hear the whoops. I'd hear the whistles, all the communication that they would have. But I've never had a sighting up until that point. And then when I did, I tried to just remember everything about it as it was happening. It was in an instant, and like people, you say, why didn't you get a picture? It was like, well, you didn't want to lose your focus off of it, because this thing was so fast, so big, so dark, and so big. It was fascinating to watch it, but to see, putting all that together on the ground on his full on run stride was really, really impressive to see. And so we just sat there, looked over the hillside, and he didn't make a sound or anything else while we were there. We sat there for about a half hour after we laid everything out, and then we just went to finish our location of our job site. And then, so this is a 2-part story.
Okay.
So we had to go back.
Buckle up.
We had to go back in there the next day to go over the hill where he had gone. And so we got back up there about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then just decided just to cross country and just head straight down the hill. And as we were working our way down, we were about a half a mile down when we came out to this rock outcropping. And so we were like, steep hill, rough terrain, don't want to walk back up there. Let's find somebody that we can get a hold of on the radio, pick us up at the bottom, and they can take us around to our truck on top.
Right.
And so he hands me the radio. I start calling out, and then he picks up a basketball-sized rock, and then he rolls it over the hill. And we're looking about, 80%. So, it's steep. Mm-hmm. And so we're watching the rock roll down the hill, and as I'm watching it, there was something down there that went really quick like this. And so I was watching the rock, and then a flash of that, and I handed him the radio. I said, there's something down there. I said, I'm gonna go take a look, see what it was. So he picked up another rock, and then he tumbled another rock down. And when I didn't see anything else, but I went down to the spot, and all I saw were scuff marks in the soil. But then when I went further down over the hill, well, I started finding not clear tracks in the dirt, but where it took off down the hill. And so as I'm following it down the hill, um, his heel would hit in the soft soil, and he had slid down about 4, 5 feet, 6 feet. And so he was on a full run, heel, slide, and then his stride, and then strike with the heel again, then slide. And then he was doing this on a full run straight down that hill. And then he hooked off to the left. And then that's when I stopped tracking him, because he got into a more rocky soil, rocky terrain. And then so I started going back up and then measuring everything back out again. And when I got inside of my partner, then I looked up, and then I went back to measuring, and then I worked my way up closer to him. And then when I looked up, he started running. He started running across the slope and then down towards me. And then there was a rock that was rolling where he was at. And he gets to me, and then he goes, "Did you hear it?" And I said, "No." I said, "I didn't hear anything." I told him, "I saw you kick that rock loose up there." And he goes, "I didn't kick that rock loose. That rock was thrown at me." And I went, "Oh, what?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was thrown at me." And he goes, "I heard this." And then I turned around and I looked up, and next thing you know, I see this rock being tossed. He said it wasn't rolling along the ground. This thing was hurled right at me, and it landed right next to me on my left side. And then that's when I started running down to you. And so I went running up there to see if I could find the tracks, and then couldn't find anything. And so we worked our way to the plot, worked out our plot, and then it was late. It was like 9 o'clock when we got back to the truck. And because he was too afraid to go back up the slope because of what had just happened to him. And so on the way up, he would stop me and he goes, "What are these tracks?" And I was like, "It's a bear." And so then we walk up again, you find more. That's a bear. And then the third set of tracks that he found, I said, "Well, there you go. There's your rock thrower." I said, "He went down that game trail and into the timber right there." And so we get back to the truck, and always told him stories about events, and he wondered why he was chosen by him to have that rock tossed at him. And I was like, "Well, come on, you rolled 2 rocks down the hill, and I told you he was down there." So I didn't roll the rock, you did. So he circled above you, and then
roll the rock down on you.
Yeah, threw one at you.
Oh, there's kind of like a little tit for that game. I guess my next question, Mel, would be is okay, these are all by chance. You're working, and as you're doing your job, making your money, feeding your family, and you come across these forest people. Do you now go out separately and actually look for them, or what is your process now?
No, I don't go looking for them. My event that happened to me changed my life, changed the way I did things, and then changed my relationship with them. Years ago, I found some hair while we were working. I collected the hair, put it away. People would come to me and say, "How do you know those are Bigfoot hairs?" I said, "Because what made them made this nest, and it wove everything together." And I said, "Bears don't do that. Deer don't do that. They just slide everything into out of the center and then lay down in it."
Something would have to have an opposing thumb just to weave. You have to have something to grip something. I mean, raccoons maybe.
Yeah. And so so everything was intertwined, and I'm going through it, and I'm plucking out hairs, and then so a couple of years later, I was attending a house cleansing ceremony when the shaman was trying to get the spirit that was bothering the house out, and he told us during this that each one of us that were there, and there was 20 plus people that were there, and said each one of us was going to have a different experience. A past friend, a past relative, would come by and say hello, because they would be called in to assist, to help, not force the spirit like people do, but help guide it out. And that's what they wanted to do, was a gentle, these folks to bring it out. And so when we started, I had no idea. It was the first time I'd ever been through anything like this. And it was pitch black. I could put my hand line right here and not see my hand. I had people sitting on the floor next to me. And then when the ceremony started, nothing happened on the first song. But then on the second song, you could feel the air change. He sent out a vibration from himself that just came from him and out to on the floor underneath all of us, and then it went up into the ceiling. And I turned to the person to the left, and I was like, "But the floor is vibrating, or was it just me?" And she goes, "No, the floor is vibrating." And I'm like, "I don't know what's going on here." I kept, just pitch black. And so the third song started, and then that's when this event changed my life. Was I heard something walking around in the back, and then I heard this, "Whoa," and I was like, I've heard this before.
That scared. The way you did that just scared. I got hair standing on my. I swear that was very good. You're really good at setting up the whole. Like, I'm in the room with you, Mel. This is great. Please.
Yeah. And so this little whoop comes out, and I was like, I've heard this. And then I put my head down. And I said, if you are who I think you are, you whoop one more time. And then it went immediately. Whoop! And then I was like, oh, no way. This can't be a white, I've got a Sasquatch spirit coming to me. Everybody else, he said, people, relatives, friends, and,
wow.
And so as I'm sitting there on the floor, I hear the boom, the steps coming down the hallway towards us in the living room. And I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this or not, but the singing and the drumming are going on by the family there. And he got into the living room, and then he stepped towards my direction, but on the opposite side of the room yet. And then as he got closer, then he started jumping. I mean, I could feel him jumping. I could feel him jumping on the floor, and I could hear him going, "Ah! Ah!" And he was just boom, jumping. "Ah!" And it was so loud that I tried to cover my ears, but he's right in front of me, and he's doing all this. And he's not just in front of me, but he's moving to the left. He's moving to the right. "Ah!" And I had no idea what was going on. And this song, as it was ending, he stopped jumping or dancing. And then he started walking back down the hallway, and I could hear him stepping back down into the hallway again. And then the song was over, and then he was gone. And then he, the leader, the shaman, the medicine man, he started going around the room. You had so-and-so, you had a friend, you had your family member come over, touch you on the shoulder, and try to make communication with you. And then he gets around to me, and he goes, "Well, you got something attached to you that you shouldn't." And it wants it back. And so he goes, "To clear this up between the two of you, see me after this. I will give you steps, have a ceremony set for you to return what you have taken." And then so
because of the hair. Oh my
because
Lord. Oh man.
Yeah. And so when I collected everything that he wanted that I needed, I was supposed to just walk out of the house and not tell anybody. And so I drove out to the site where the hair was collected. And when I walked down over the hill, um, I did this little ceremony that he told me to, the offerings and everything and the prayer, and then finally offering the hair back to the individual. And so after I was done, I looked down the hill and I looked around and I go, I've done everything that I was asked. Are we good? And it was something he told me I didn't have. I did this on my own. And then down the hill for me, I get this, "Whoa!" And I said, "Thank you. I don't speak Sasquatch, but I'm guessing that we're good." And then I packed everything up and I walked back up to my vehicle. And then ever since then, my whole life's changed with my interactions with them, because I get told by others that are intuitive more than I am at that time, that they know who you are and they respect what you did for the one.
Wow. I would love to. We'll have to do this on another date to get more into like we're setting a baseline. So Mel, what are you planning on doing with all this information? Are you just trying to inform people about your experiences so that maybe when they go in, they're a little more respectful, or what is it that your reason for coming on today?
Well, I'm always sharing, I learned from my elders. I eventually learned from my elders. It took a while, took a couple of rocks to the head, and
Yeah.
but the teachings that are handed down to not just me but to everybody, respect that, because those experiences come from somewhere. And if you think that, oh no, it's not going to happen to me, well, you're going to be wrong. And you're going to get righted for those experiences. But to me, what I've learned, I want to make sure that everybody else also learns from here on, that the respect that you need to show them, and to be a great neighbor. And if they are in an area and they don't want you in the area, or if you're acting like a lunatic shooting guns, or do all this obnoxious stuff, that you're not treating Mother Earth correctly, they're going to let you know, and they're not going to want you around. And
Right.
so that's the teachings that I'm trying to present. And it's not just me, but it's everybody else that I go out with. There's many people that I've made friends with, that we are now not going out there wood knocking. We're not going out there hooting. We're not trying to attract them, because they already know you're coming. They already know who you are, and they already know that you're going to come to that spot. So, you've got to give them a lot more credit. You got to get out of here. What you think no, you got to keep that open mind, open heart, and your advancement and your communication with them, your interactions with them will grow stronger.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's because of the internet, or if it's because of they're stepping up their connectedness to us. Do you think they're coming forth and like connecting with certain people to impart
Yes.
certain wisdom about their way of living, about their being, about who they are? Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that, buddy.
Yes, I do. And I mean, if you're out there to expose them, if you're out there to make them known to other people, or to the world, then you're in this for the wrong reasons. It's got to be a journey within that you have to pursue with them. And then once you make that communication, once that light starts to shine and get brighter, then you'll know that you're doing this correctly. But if you're out there to expose them, they're not going to do anything with you. They're going to stay away. They're going to know who you are. If you repeat to the areas, they know your vehicle. They know you. they know your family that you come out there with, so I mean they have learned over the years to get that knowledge and create that network to the other ones. Like, oh, here comes Tom. We don't want Tom up here. Tom is,
It wouldn't be the first time I've heard of Mel.
But look, Mel, he's got Mel with him, so he's cool.
Yeah, maybe one day there's certain people that I wouldn't want to go with, and there's certain people like yourself I would want to go with. With that experience you've had with the medicine man, and then the physical connect, what would you say they are, or what like your best? How would you describe them best to somebody who's never heard of them? Say you're from the middle, another planet, and you're like, we have these creatures here. Oh, what are they? How would you describe them to them?
I would describe them as one of the original beings that were put on this earth to live in coexistence with the rest of life around here, and have maintained who they are since they've arrived. And each one of them, each group of them, they're all family. Every one of them is connected with each other, and each one of them is responsible, has a job within that unit to protect, to watch, to teach. It's just like our system that we have here, and so I mean that's the best I can describe it. They are us, but in tune with the original who they are.
Right. Hopefully, I think I don't know. There's a part of me that believes that we're headed back that way. I mean, if you watch the news, you're going to go, no, it's not true. But at the same time, I seem to be running into a lot of people. You make this show, and you start talking to people, and you realize, like, I'm connected, and I know this person, or you should talk to this person. And you realize that more and more people are starting to be more connected with the environment, with one another, and I hope we keep going that way. And before I get you up out of here, is there anything that you're promoting today, Mel, that I can help you with?
I go around to different conferences. I'm doing a conference up in Chilliwack, British Columbia in September.
Mm-hmm.
All the presenters haven't been announced yet, but they got a hold of me. I was up there last year, and so he wanted me to come back. And then, so I said yes. And so it's September, I think the 19th, if I remember right. And then also I helped put on our conference on the Yakama Nation. And within the city of Yakama, which is called the Oregon, it's called the Yakama Bigfoot Con, and so we've already booked our guests, and it's the weekend before Halloween, and so if anybody's interested in traveling out to Yakama, then look it up. The Yakama Chamber of Commerce website, the city of Yakama,
and
we'll put on there.
Can we also find your information on your LinkedIn right here? What I have at the bottom of the page. What is that connected to the LinkedIn there on the screen?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't have any websites, so.
Really? Okay. Hopefully we're not promoting the wrong Mel here. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, take that off.
I'll take it back. Disregard all that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Disregard all that. I think I actually have it in the description too. I type in your name, I see your pictures, and I see your LinkedIn. I goes, that has all this stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah. No,
maybe someone did one for you.
I guess. And but no, I just have a Facebook. I mean, friend me on Facebook, and then you'll be able to follow. I mean, I'm not on it all the time, but that's the only way that people can get a hold of me. If people within the area or traveling up in the area, you want to go out, I've got a few special areas. I got two that I call Shaggy and Scooby that are just hilarious. And but yeah, if you want to come up into the area and we plan something out, then I'll take people and I'll show them.
That's fantastic. Mel, I appreciate it so much. Is there any possibility I can get you back on here in the future to get into what you're doing now?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. I appreciate so very much that you came on today and took time to impart some of your experiences and some of your wisdom, which you have learned. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you invited me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Till I see you next time. Okay, guys. So that was Mel Skahan. If you want to go out and reach out to him, he's sometimes on Facebook. If not, connected to Chamber of Commerce up there in Oregon, or
Yakama,
Yakama.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't remember all the names. And go check him out. It's very interesting. I would love to get into some newer stuff. When I'll contact you maybe in a month or two. We'll do it again. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you, Mel, once again. And remember, guys, we are the eye. We are aware. And I love you all. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody.